Good evening. Good evening, students. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, madam.
Okay, we can start. Okay. First of all, wish you a very, very happy New Year. So we have another, I think, 2 sessions. In addition to that, I have to do another sessions because I missed 2 sessions. So 4 sessions are available with today's session. Today I am going to start from the company taxation. Company's taxation, even though that is company taxation, that is a different name is there, but all in most cases applicable rules are very similar with the in individual taxation. So very few sections are not available for individuals, and some sections are different for company taxation. Mainly, I think you can understand, you can this is just a reminder. I think you can I think you know that section specific sections are there, specific deduction rules are there. So in that specific deduction rules, section 12 is mainly applicable for individuals, so that is also applicable for companies, but in the under section 18 that availability is restricted. So because of that, section 18 is mainly applicable to companies. In addition to that, section 18 is specifically applicable to companies. Other than that, all other sections are, all other deduction rules are very similar with the in individual taxation. So mainly section 11 is for main deduction rule, that is completely equal application is there for individuals and companies, not any difference. And section 10 explains what are the expenses that are not allowed as a deduction. That is so that provision is also applicable for both individuals and companies. Sources also similar, but for companies employment source is not applicable, but because it is not engaging in employment, therefore for a company, for an entity, only 3 sources are applicable, that is business, investment and other income source. The next important thing is reliefs. So for individuals, reliefs are available, but for an entity or for a company, reliefs are not available. Then the qualifying payments are available for both companies and individuals, but restricted amount is different. That means for an individual, if it is donation to approved charity, then 1/3 of the taxable income or 75,000 or the amount denoted is the lower amount can be deducted. And for a company, the difference is if that donation is to a approved charity, then 1/5 of the taxable income or 500,000 or the amount donated, whichever the amount, lower amount can be deducted as a qualifying payment. So those are the differences in between the individual taxation and company taxation. So if you have questions regarding these company taxation, in addition to that, applicable tax rates. Applicable tax rates are completely different. But for the individuals, progressive tax rates are applicable. Progressive means when the taxable income increases, gradually tax rates are also increasing. That is why we have a slab and different tax rates. So we call them progressive tax rates. But for a company, we have only one tax rate, that is 30%. But that 30% is applicable only to general. In general meaning, for the general companies, that is 30%. But if that business is for liquor and tobacco, betting and gaming, then applicable tax rate is 40%. That is the only difference in the tax rate applicable for a company. Normal tax rate is 30%. So those are the differences between individual taxation and company taxation. So if you have questions regarding that, you can ask now. If you don't have questions, we can move to the question, today's question. Okay, I can give you 1 or 2 minutes to ask questions if you have. Okay, that means you don't have questions. I think you can understand the difference between individual taxation and company taxation. There's a question. Yes, I have. There's a question regarding the handout or a tute. Yes, I have sent it to Ms. Hari. I think she has already shared it with you. I have shared. Yes, 2 questions only means for an individual. I have sent 2 questions for individual and 2 questions for company. Not question but tutes. 2 tutes for individual and 2 questions for company. Yes. Yes, Sumeda and Nilupur. This is Sumeda. Yes. You mean handout? No, there is no handout for company because all applicable provisions are very similar. So only the handout I have already given is applicable for individual taxation and company taxation. So those are the provisions in the taxation. So by applying that provisions into individuals and companies, that is the difference. So when we are calculating these calculations, you can identify the difference. When I am doing that calculation, handouts, when I am explaining handouts, at that time I have explained this is relevant for company and this is relevant for individual. But very few sections are applicable only for company or only for individual. In most cases, all provisions are applicable both to companies and individuals. එක පැහැදිලි නැද්ද ඔයගොල්ලන්ට? hand out එකක් කියලා වෙනමම දෙන්න ස්පෙෂලි දෙන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. tax provisions ටික ඔක්කොම මම hand outs වලින් දීලා තියෙනවා. Now we are going to do our calculation. At that time you can identify the difference between company taxation and individual taxation. Nothing difference. මෙතන ඔයගොල්ලෝ මට පේන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ ප්‍රශ්නයක් කරගෙන ඉන්නවා company taxation කියන්නේ වෙන එකක් කියලා නෑ. company taxation උයි individual taxation කියලා දෙකක special දේවල් නැහැ. ඒ වෙනස මම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ටියුට්ස් කරනකොට හැම වෙලාවකදී මේක පැහැදිලි කරා. එතකොට ආයේ අලුතෙන්ම ටියුට් එකක් දෙන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. ඔයගලන්ට මෙතන ගැටලුවක් තියෙනවා නම් මම ඕනනම් go through කරගෙන යන්නම්. මෙන්න මේ ටික ස්පෙෂල් කලෙක්ෂන් ස්පෙෂල් ටික බලන්න. ඒ තැන් වලදී කියලා තියෙනවා business income, investment income මේ හැම දෙයක්ම company එකටයි individual එකනටයි ඔක්කොටම සමානයි. Let's do the calculation. Then you can identify the difference between individual taxation and company taxation. Okay, so this is for Sumedha. This is Sumedha Private Limited. It is a standalone company. That means this is not a group of companies but a individual company. That means just a company. There are some companies, they are a group of companies. It doesn't matter whether it is a group of company or a company. If it is a private limited, that means it is a company. So this is Sumedha Private Limited. It is a standalone company engaging in the business of manufacturing and selling beauty care products and supply to the local market. So that company is manufacturing beauty care products and supply to the local market. So earlier, if that is applied to the local market, then applicable tax rate was different. If it is for the foreign market, applicable tax rate was 15%. Prior to that, 14%. But now, for the year of assessment 24, 25 and onwards, that is only 30%. So that is why I am not going to explain more and more about each and every business type, because all applicable tax rate for all businesses are 30% other than liquor and tobacco business. Then I have given you some details. So in this detail it says 32 million has been the profit before income tax of the company. In the previous question I have given profit before income tax of an individual. Here this is for a company as per the audited statement accounts. Then I have given you the turnover, that is just an information. Then stated capital and reserves. For an individual we don't have stated capital and reserves, but for a company we have stated capital and reserves. So why do we have this? Why do we have this stated capital and reserves? There is a special reason. Special reason is there. When I am calculating this part, I will explain it again. Then other operating income including in the accounting profit. So this is also very similar to the individual. Only this part means share capital part is different, because for a company there is a share capital, but for an individual no share capital. Then other operating income, profit on disposal of land, profit on disposal of motor lorry, interest income from the fixed deposit, dividend. So dividends are distributed by the company. So this is not the distributed part, this is income received by the company. So dividend income, this is also similar to an individual. Then when calculating the accounting profit means the profit mentioned in the first note, that is 32. When they are calculating this profit 32.4 million, they have already deducted these expenses. Is dividend from another company? Yes, dividend, that means because this is an income means the company can receive dividend income. In addition to that, the company can distribute dividend income, and as well they can receive dividend income. Then after deducting these expenses, they have calculated this profit. This is also similar to an individual's tax liability, tax calculation. So you have given depreciation. So this is the book depreciation. When we are calculating the tax payable amount, book depreciation should be added back, because this is a book depreciation. We have to add back this amount. Note 1 is relevant to this depreciation, so we have to refer note 1. After that, we have to consider the capital allowances under section 60. So that is the allowable amount as a deduction, but this is book depreciation 17.2 million. We have to add back this. Then staff welfare, you have given note 2. We have to refer note 2 to check whether the staff expenses given under note 2 are allowable as a deduction or not. Then machinery repair expenses. Then advertising expenses. For that advertising also you have given note 3. Then foreign travel, note 4. Provision for gratuity, note 5. Entertainment expenses, food provided for factory workers. So you have given specifically the items they have given, because if that is entertainment expenses and if that entertainment expenses included liquor, then it is not allowable as a deduction. Because of that, you are specifically mentioned that this entertainment expenses are with regard to the food provided for factory workers. Then bad debts written off. Then provision for doubtful debts. So I think you know provisions are not allowable as a deduction. Written off, this is a written off amount, it is deductible, but provisions are not allowable. So we have to add back it. Then donation. Donations are deductible, but if it is a qualifying payment. If that donation can be categorized under qualifying payment, then only we can deduct it. Then management fee, after that interest. So you have given interest. If this interest is for an individual taxation, then interest total amount can be deducted under section 12 if that interest expenditure is incurred for the purpose of the person's business or investment. But if that interest expenditure is for a company, then under section 18 we have to restrict this amount. So that is one of the difference between individual taxation and company taxation. For an individual, total interest expenditure, if it is incurred for a business purpose or investment purpose, we could deduct. I think you can understand. You can I think you can remind. This is just a reminder. So when you are calculating individual's income tax liability, we deducted total interest expenditure. But when we are calculating company's tax liability, total interest expenditure cannot be allowed as a deduction. According to section 18, we have to restrict this amount. I think you can remember. For that restriction, we have given these details. These details means stated capital and reserves details are given for that purpose. These details are not enough for that calculation, but in the remaining part we have given other details also for the calculation of allowable interest part. Then we can move to the table. This is fixed assets table. So in this fixed asset table, you can see the opening balances, then the additions during the period, then disposals during the period. So this is also very similar to the individual taxation. Then you have given several notes. In this note, it says the description of that specific item. Here you have given details about land, then details about building, then details about machinery, okay, sorry. Then these are the details of the building. Then machinery details are given. Then office equipment details are given. Motor lorry disposals are here. Then computer details. So these are the details for staff welfare, note number 2. Several expenses are already incurred and these expenses are already deducted. So I think now you can understand all are very similar to the income tax calculation. Then advertising expenses, you have given these details. Then foreign travel expenses are given. Provision for gratuity account is here because for an individual gratuity accounts are not there, but for a company gratuity accounts are there. So that is why we have given that part. In addition to that, loan and loan to interest. So when you are restricting interest expenditure for the deduction, this part also very relevant. So that is why we have given it. Then donations. Then the installment payments. So what you have to do is you have to calculate tax computation, tax liability of Sumedha Private Limited. So I think now you can understand this is also very similar to the individual taxation. එහෙම නේද? දැන් කාට හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවද මේක කම්පැනි එකක් මේක වෙනස් කියලා? එහෙම නෑ. වෙනස් නෑ. ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් එක වෙනස් තියෙන අවස්ථා කීපයක් තියෙනවා. වෙනස් අවස්ථා කියන්නේ interest expenditure එක deduct කරනකොට section 12 වලින් individual එක්කෙනාගේ deduction එකේදී සියලුම දේ restriction එකකින් තොරව deduct කරා. ඒ interest expenditure එක දරුවා නම් business purpose එක වෙනුවෙන්. හැබැයි කම්පැනි එකක ගත්තොත් ඒ interest expenditure එකම එයා business purpose දරුවත් 100% මේ අඩු කරන්න දුන්නේ නැහැ ඒක අවුරුද්දකින්. ඒක restrict කරා section 18 වලින්. If you can refer my deduction rules, deduction slide sets, then you can refer section 18. In that section 18 with an example, I have explained how to do that calculation. ඔයගලන්ට මතක ඇති specific deduction rule ගැන කතා කරනකොට section 18 වලින් මේක restrict කරන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා මම example එකකින්ම පැහැදිලි කරා. ඒක තමයි එක වෙනසක්. ඊට අමතරව ගත්තොත් reliefs හිමි වන්නේ නැහැ කම්පැනි එකකට. එතකොට අපිට relief, personal relief, solar relief ඒව මොකුත් හිමි වෙන්නේ නැහැ යාට. In addition to that, qualifying payment difference is there. Qualifying payment එක individual එක්කෙනාට taxable income එකෙන් 1/3 or 75,000 or the amount deposited incurred, the lesser amount should be deducted. For a company, 1/5, 500,000 or the amount donated, whichever is the lesser amount can be deducted. तर මෙන්න මේව තමයි වෙනස. In addition to that, applicable tax rates. तर මේකත් මම taxable income slide set එකේ individual ලාගේ tax rates වෙනම කරලා තියෙනවා, company tax rate වෙනම කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒතර ආයි වෙනමම එකක් දෙන්න අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. මොකද මේ හැම ප්‍රොවිෂන් එකක්ම කරනකොට මේක ඇප්ලයි වෙනවා specifically if it is relevant for an individual or a company. At that time I have mentioned it in my slide. එතකොට ඒවා කියෙව්වා නම් ඒවා බැලුවා නම් මේ දෙකේ වෙනස ඔයගලන්ට තේරෙන්න ඕනේ. Okay, now we can move to one by one. So my issue is whether you have received this one or not, whether you can refer it when I am doing the calculation or not. ඔයගලන්ට පුළුවන් ද මේ ගාන දැන් මම මෙතනින් අයින් කරලා ගාන හදන හැටි කියාගෙන ගියොත් පැහැදිලිද? මොකද අපිට එක සැරයකට එක ස්ක්‍රීන් එකයිනේ බලන්න පුළුවන්. කොහොමද අපිට මේක කරන්න පුළුවන්? Do you have this one? Can you make a copy? Can you make a photo? ඔයගලගේ ෆෝන් එකේ මේක ගානේ ෆොටෝ එකක් අරගෙන ගාන අපිට හදාගෙන යන්න පුළුවන්ද? එහෙම නැත්නම් අපිට ඒක වෙනම බල හදන්න වෙනවද? චුට්ටක් අමාරුයි මටත්. කොහොමද කරන්න කියන්න. හරි. Just take a piece of paper and try to calculate. So that's good. We have the question in our phone. That is good. So you have the question. So when we are doing that calculation, I can explain it how to do that calculation. Okay, that's good. Yes, that is good. We can do it with the calculation. So I will move to the answer sheet. Answer sheet eකට යන්න කලින් prior to that, if you have questions regarding this question, you can ask. If not, when we are doing the calculation, you can ask questions. හරි. එහෙනම් මම answer sheet එකට යන්න හදන්නේ. මේකේ වෙන issues නැතිව ඇති. කාට හරි මේක photos හරි ගන්න බැරි වුණා නම් phone එකේ නැති අය ඉන්නවා නම් please propose any solution. හැම දිනාටම මං හිතනවා ඇති කියලා. So if so, I can move to the answer sheet. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයගලන්ට මට පොඩි වෙලාවක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් ඉමේජ් එකක් හරි ගන්න. කාට හරි එහෙම අවශ්‍යයි නම්. මං හිතන්නේ කාටවත් අවශ්‍ය නැහැ වගේ නේද? Okay. Let's move to the answer sheet. Okay, I think you can see the document. So this is the answer sheet. So first of all, you have to write the name of the company, then the thing what you are going to do. So this is calculation of income tax payable for which year? That is for year of assessment 24-25. So not visible. Is it okay? Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. So this is Sumeda's tax computation. So you have to write the name, then the period, and what you are going to do. You are going to calculate income tax payable for the year of assessment 24-25. Then we can start. This is, as I already told you, as I have already said, this is also very similar to the income tax calculation of an individual. We started from the trading profit, so we called it profit before tax, that is 32.4 million. So we have calculated this profit after adding other profits. Other profits means other operational income, other than operational income. So what is that? Profit on disposal of land. So that income also included in this profit. That is why we are deducting that. Lorry profit, disposal of lorry also, profit on disposal of lorry also included here under 32.4. Interest income also included here. Dividend income also included here. But now we are going to calculate the assessable income from business. So assessable income from business means we have to remove interest and dividend. Why? It should be categorized under investment income. That is why we are deducting that from this 32.4 million. In addition to that, profit on disposal of land and profit on disposal of lorry also we are removed. Why? Why we are removing that too? Because that is a part of the business income. But we are removing it because this profit is calculated according to the accounting standards, not according to the tax law. That is why we are removing it from here. We are deducting it from the profit. Then after that we have to calculate the proper gain in accordance with the tax law. Until then we are deducting that amount. So in the other operating income we have several income. That income is already included in the profit before tax amount, but we have to remove it when we are calculating the assessable income from business. So this is for assessable income from business. Then it says some expenses are already deducted in the next part. So in the first column I have mentioned 4 and 5. So 5 means number 5. Under number 4 it has mentioned about the profit, other operating income. Under note 5, under item 5, other expenses, deducted expenses. There are a lot of expenses. Among that expenses, these expenses are also deducted in arriving at this profit 32.4. So why we have to check one by one whether that expenditure is allowable as a deduction for the calculation of business income or not. First one is depreciation. So this is depreciation. Depreciation is calculated in accordance with the accounting standards, not according to the tax law. That is why we added back it. Added back means we do not allow as a deduction, but when arriving at this profit it has already been deducted. It is not allowable, that is why we added it back. Then machinery repair. Machinery repair is allowable as a deduction. Why? It is allowable as a deduction because they are using machinery for manufacturing beauty care products. So for that machinery they have incurred some repairs, expenses for repairs, that is allowable. So that expenditure is already deducted when arriving at this profit. Since it is allowable, we have not done anything. We have not included or we have not deducted because that deduction is already done. Then entertainment. In the entertainment expenditure, in the entertainment part, it has specifically mentioned that this entertainment is for the food provided for the workers. So that is allowable as a deduction. If that terms are not available in the within that bracket, Okay. Then entertainment expenditure is allowable as a deduction because it is incurred for food and beverage of the company workers. If it is for liquor and tobacco, it is not allowable as a deduction. If it is not allowable as a deduction, what we have to do? We have to add back. We have to put it in the add column. But here it is, since it is allowable, it is already deducted, so we are not mentioning it in either in column E or column F. Then bad debts written off, that is also allowable as a deduction because the bad debts written off are allowable as a deduction. The next one is provision for debts. Provisions are not allowable, not only for the debts, but any provision is not allowable as a deduction. So we have added back. Then donations. Donations are also not deductible under this part. But if it is a qualifying payment, we can deduct it when we are calculating the taxable income. Here we are calculating only the assessable income from business. So it is not relevant for only for the business. So we are not allowing as a deduction. So we added it back. Then management fee, that is also allowable as a deduction. Then now these are the expenses that we are not going to allow as a deduction, and some expenses are allowed. So these are the expenses they have specifically mentioned. Now for management fee, there's a question, so that is I think the direct question. So that is for management fee. Earlier according to previous act, we had several restrictions, but under this act, Act number 17 of 2000, number 24 2017 Act, we don't have any restrictions for management fee. That is, if that management fee is incurred in the production of income, then it is allowable as a deduction. Okay. Then you can move to note number 6B. In that note number 6B, you can see a description that is regarding the land sale. So now we have to calculate the liability of that land sale. It says like this. A land which was purchased for 5 million to construct a warehouse during the year of assessment 1718 has been sold for 10 million during this year of assessment. So during this year of assessment, the land purchased in the year of assessment 1718 has been sold. So they purchased that land in 1718 taxable year of assessment for 5 million. Now it has been sold. So what do we have to consider? What are the main concerns regarding the land sale? First of all, we have to consider whether this land is used for the business purpose or for the investment purpose. So it says, so they purchased this land to construct a warehouse. So that means intention of purchasing this land is business. So because of that, we can identify this as a business property, business asset. So if it is a business asset, when we are calculating the gain of that business asset, we have to consider the cost. That is not the 2017 value, but the historical cost, because this is a land used for the business purpose. So I think you can remember two types of land. So capital assets are there. If that capital asset is used for the business purpose, we call it business asset. If that capital asset is used for the investment asset, we call it investment asset. If it is an investment asset, when we are selling some asset and when we are calculating the gain or loss of that disposal, that realization, we have to consider September 30th 2017 value as a cost. But if it is a business asset, we have to consider the historical value as a cost. So here the historical cost of this land is 5 million. So from the sale proceed of 10 million, we can deduct the cost of 5 million. Then there is a gain, that is 5 million gain. So this is that land. So that other than operational income also we have a land profit, sale of land, profit on the disposal of land, that is 5 million. We removed it, but again we are adding it after calculating the gain in accordance with the tax law. So that is 5 million. Then there are some buildings, and the next thing is we have to consider whether there are remaining lands or not. So remaining lands are there, but capital allowances are not allowable for the land. So that is why I have mentioned no capital allowances for the lands. Then under 6C, so I have mentioned the note number and the item number to identify clearly. Then buildings are there. For the buildings, we have to grant capital allowances. For the building purchased in the year 1920, we can grant capital allowance. So capital allowance is for 20 years we can allow it as a deduction. So here I think you can see the formula I have used. I will share these Excel sheets with you. So 61 million is the value cost. So we can divide it by 20 because 20 years period we can use that building. Then the capital allowance is 3 million. Then we have another building purchased in the year 24-25. That is also relevant for the business, so we can grant capital allowance. Then we can move to the, I think you can remember. So how in under item C you have not given this building 24 purchased during the year of assessment 24-25 building is not mentioned in this item C, but in the document, in the table, you can see the purchased additions item under additions, this 10,000 building. So not only these notes, you have to refer the table also to grant capital allowances. එක මතකයි නේද හැම දිනාටම? මෙතනින් විතරක් බලලා බෑ මම ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් ටැක්සේෂන් කරනකොට පැහැදිලි කරා එක නෝට්ස් වලත් තියෙනවා. ඊට අමතරව අර ලොකු ටේබල් එක ඇතුළේ තියෙනවා ඒකත් සලකන්න ඕනේ කියලා. Okay. Then machinery, you have given machinery purchased in the year of assessment 1920, that is 15 million. From 1920 to 24-25, that is 6 years. That means the capital allowances are fully granted. So we are not going to grant capital allowance for the year of assessment 24-25. Then machinery purchased during the year, you have to grant capital allowances. Then office equipment, from 1920, there are a lot of office equipment purchased in the year of assessment 1920 2021, 22-23 and 24-25. To all purchases from 2021 to 24-25, you have to grant capital allowances, but for the first one 19-20, capital allowances are already granted. Then motor vehicle. So now you are in the motor vehicle part. It says a motor lorry which was acquired during the year of assessment 2021 was disposed on 1st of June 2024 at a value of 1.8 million. 1.8 million means sales proceed, that means sales value. එතකොට 1.8 million වලට තමයි මේක විකුණලා තියෙන්නේ. And a new motor van has been purchased on 30th March 2025. This van has not been registered during the year of assessment. Details of the vehicles as at 1st of April 2024 are as follows. Okay, now try to calculate the gain on this disposal of motor vehicle. So you have two parts. One is the disposal of motor vehicle. The next one is the purchase of motor vehicle. Two motor vehicles are there. Now you can first part. You can do the first part, that is the calculation of gain or loss of the disposal of motor vehicle. How do we do it? So you know the sale proceed, that is 1.8 million. From this sale proceed, you have to deduct written down value. Written down value means cost minus capital allowances already granted. Capital allowances already granted should be deducted from the cost of the lorry to calculate written down value. එක මතක ඇති හීනව වගේ written down value කිව්ව මොකද්ද? cost එකෙන් අඩු කරන්න ඕනේ මේ වෙනකන් දීලා තියෙන capital allowances ප්‍රමාණය. කීයද මේ වෙනකන් දීලා තියෙන capital allowances ප්‍රමාණය? How do we know that? We have to consider the purchased year. From the purchased year, we assume that they purchased and they used that asset. So from the purchased year to the year of assessment, we have to consider. So I think you can remember, for the purchased year we have to grant capital allowances. For the disposal year we are not going to grant capital allowances. So because of that, when we are considering the written down value, we have to consider only up to the previous year of assessment. So from 2021 to 23-24 year of assessment, we have already granted capital allowances. So from the cost of the asset, that already capital allowances already granted should be deducted to calculate written down value. So what is that amount? So cost of the asset is 5 million. Cost of the asset is 5 million. Purchased period is 2021 year of assessment. From 2021 to 23-24. How many years? 2021, 21-22, 22-23, 23-24. 4 years of assessments are already finished. That means capital allowances are already granted. So only 1 year of assessment is available. That is the written down value, because from 5 million, 4 million should be deducted to calculate the written down value, that is the 1 million. Then from the sale proceed, that written down value should be deducted. Then we have the gain from the realization on the motor vehicle, that is 800,000. Okay, Then we can move to the second part of the motor vehicle. What is that? What is the second part of the motor vehicle? I said there are two situations. First one is disposal of the motor vehicle. The second situation is the purchase of new vehicle. So for the new vehicle we have to grant capital allowances. Okay, tell me, can we grant capital allowances for the motor van purchased during the year of assessment? Can we grant capital allowance? අපිට පුළුවන් ද capital allowances දෙන්න අලුත් van එකට? Can't. Isuru. Yes. We cannot grant capital allowances because we can assume that it is not used for the purpose business during that year of assessment because it has not been registered. That vehicle is not registered means without registering a vehicle we cannot use for the purpose. So it is not, we can assume that it is not used. So therefore we cannot grant capital allowances. Then we have three motor vehicles. One is lorry purchased in the year of assessment 2021 for 5 million. We have already sold it. The second one is a car. For the car, capital allowances are not granted. So it is not available for the deduction. Then there is a lorry purchased in the year of assessment 22-23. For that one, we can grant capital allowance because that is a motor vehicle used for the business. Then for the vehicle purchased during the year of assessment, we cannot grant capital allowance. Then for the computer that is purchased in the year of assessment 2021, we can grant capital allowance. Then we can move to the staff welfare expenses. So one by one we have to consider whether that is allowable or not. That is compensation. As for a company, it says compensation paid to employees for accidents occurred while working. So that is allowable as a deduction. Then tea expenses. Tea expenses also allowed as a deduction. Staff party. Staff party expenses are not allowable as a deduction because under entertainment definition, it can be categorized under entertainment expenditure. So it is not allowable as a deduction, staff party expenses. Then factory safety uniform. Factory safety uniform is there. That is allowable as a deduction. Then pirit. That is also not allowable as a deduction because it is also any amusement part. So it is not allowable as a deduction. Yes. Yes, if that there is a question, if that van used inside the premises, I guess we can grant capital allowances inside the premises. So inside the premises it is very rarely. So if you can assume it, no issue, but that assumption should be realistic. Realistic assumptions should be made when you are applying some provisions. Then we can move to the next type of expenditure, that is that is advertising expenses. So under advertising expenses, I think you can remember section 15A, MarCom expenditure, marketing and communication expenses. So under marketing and communication expenses, if that expenditure is categorized under MarCom expenditure without considering whether that is capital nature expenses or revenue nature expenses, we can allow as a deduction. But for that purpose, it should be under purview of the definition in section 15A. Under section 15A, it has mentioned what are the marketing and communication expenses. So one by one we have to move it. So TV and radio for imported goods allowed. TV and radio for imported goods. TV and radio advertisement. So that is just an advertisement. So we can allow it as a deduction. Then TV and radio for manufactured goods, that is also can be allowed as a deduction. Production. First one is production cost of television and television and radio advertisement produced by an Indian company. No, this one is not allowable as a deduction because it is under the TV advertisements, that is production cost. Production cost is not allowable as a deduction under section 15A. But if it is allowable as a deduction under section 11, if it is not included capital nature expenses, if it is not included capital nature expenditure, then we can allow it as a deduction under section 11. If it includes some capital nature expenditure, it cannot be deducted under section 15A because production cost of television and radio advertisements, it is produced by an Indian company. Under section 15A, it says to deduct under section 15, that should be produced by a local company. If it is produced by an Indian company, that means it is not allowable as a deduction if it includes capital nature expenditure. If it is not include capital nature expenditure, then we can deduct it under section 11. That is why I allowed it as a deduction. The next one is television and radio advertisements for manufactured goods. So that is allowable as a deduction because it is also it has not mentioned who did that. That is for the manufacture. That is for the advertisement. Television and radio advertisement. If that telecasting by Sri Lanka local company or foreign company, it is allowed as a deduction under section 15A. Therefore, no issue. Then the next one, market research carried out by the company for manufactured goods. So that is a market research. Market research also allowed as a deduction under section 15A. But that market research should be carried out by the company or a local company. So it is carried out by the company. Therefore, it is allowed as a deduction. Then production cost of television advertisements paid to a local company. Yes, that is allowed as a deduction. Then hampers and souvenirs, that is not allowed as a deduction. So the important thing you have to keep in your mind is, if it is if the first one, that is production cost of television and radio advertisements. So for the deduction of revenue and capital nature expenditure, we can apply section 15A. So for the application of section 15A, the TV and radio production advertisement production cost should be paid to a local company. Here we have made that amount payment to the Indian company. That means under section 15A it is not allowable as a deduction. But if we can, if this expenditure is not included the capital nature expenditure, then we can allow it as a deduction. But we have one issue. TV and radio expenditure means normally we pay that expenditure for a long period. නේද? දැන් TV එකක යන ඇඩ් එකක් නිකන් ප්‍රැක්ටිකලි ගත්තොත් එහෙම දවසකට දෙකකට යන්නේ නැහැනේ. අපි අවුරුද්දක් දෙකක් තිස්සේ එකම ඇඩ්වර්ටයිස්මන්ට් එක දකිනවා නම් it can be a capital nature expenditure. Sometimes we can see some advertisements only for specific period. Only for New Year, only for New Year period, only for Christmas period, like that. Then it can be for a revenue nature expenditure. So we have to decide. So in the question it has not mentioned that one. So we can assume I think this is the production cost of advertisement. This is paid to actors and directors. So if that kind of expenditure can be made, yes, but we have to consider whether that is capital nature expenditure or not. If it is a capital nature expenditure, then we can allow only under section 50. If it is a capital nature expenditure, we can allow only under 15A. Then we have to check whether that expenditure is within the purview of the definition or not. If it is not within the purview of that definition, then we cannot allow it as a deduction. එතකොට මෙන්න මේක හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න වෙනවා. දැන් මෙතනදී TV and radio කියලා කිව්වහම අපිට විශේෂයෙන් කියලා නැහැ. කියලා නැති නිසා අපිට ඒක තීරණය කරන්න පුළුවන් section 11 වලින් දෙනවා කියලා. If we are going to deduct it under section 11, then this expenditure should be for revenue. එතකොට මේක මෙතනට දාන්නත් පුළුවන්, allow කරන්නත් පුළුවන්, disallow කියලා මෙතනට යන්නත් පුළුවන්. ඒක කැමති විදියක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි මේක disallow කරමු. We can say it is not allowed as a paid to foreign company. We can consider it as this. එතකොට මේ TV and radio advertisement එක ගෙවලා තියෙන පිටරට company එකකට, therefore it is not allowed as a deduction under section 50A. If it is a TV ad, that means for the expenditure made for a TV TV corporation, any TV telecasting institution, so then we can allow it as a deduction. But here that is a production cost, so that is why I disallowed it. Then hampers, that is not allowed as a deduction. Then foreign travel, private tour, that is not allowed as a deduction. Then the postgraduate, that is also not allowed as a deduction. Under section 197 you can see domestic expenditure. In the domestic expenditure it says not to deduct expenditure incurred for the post graduation or any degree program. That kind of expenditure are not allowable as a deduction. Then provision for gratuity, provisions are not allowed as a deduction. Even though provisions are not allowed as a deduction, paid amount to that gratuity fund or as a gratuity, that is allowable as a deduction. So that amount, that paid amount should be calculated using this formula. So this is the provision. Provisions are not allowed as a deduction, therefore we added back. But we have to calculate the provision paid amount. How do we calculate? We have the opening balance. You have given opening balance. To that opening balance we have to add for provision during the period. Then from that amount we can deduct closing amount, closing provision. Then we have the amount, that is the paid amount. So that paid amount can be deducted. It is not directly given to you, but you have to calculate the paid amount using these two details given in the question, that is opening balance, closing balance and the provision. That is given. Opening balance is given, provision also given, closing balance also given. Then you can calculate the paid amount. Paid amount is allowable as a deduction, but the provisions are not allowable. That is why I added back that provision. Then paid amount is deductible. The postgraduate is 500. Is that so? Okay, then the next one, then we are moving to the interest part. So we have already given the interest amount in the note, under note 1. Which note? You have given deducted interest. Under note 11, you have given interest. The total interest is 4.8. plus bank OD, you have given that. So that expenses are not allowed as deduction, because we have to calculate allowable amount. To the calculation of that allowable amount, we have a formula. I think you can remember that formula. A divided by B multiplied by C. So what are those? So these are the figures we have to consider. Interest, share capital plus reserves. First one is share capital plus reserves. So this is the formula. Share capital plus reserves. You have given share capital plus reserves in the item number 3. So share capital plus reserves, that is 8 million. That 8 million should be multiplied by 4. This is a formula. So 4 should be given number. 4 is a given number. in the formula. So share capital plus reserves multiplied by 4. This reserve should not include revaluation reserve. If you have given a revaluation reserves also, do not consider it for the calculation of the restricted amount. Only reserves other than revaluation reserve. So share capital plus reserves, multiply that amount by 4, that is 32 million. Then the interest amount is 4.8 plus 1.9. You have given that amount. You should consider that two amount and the loan amount. Which loan amount we have considered for the interest? That means loan amount දෙකක් තියෙනවා. මේ loan amount දෙකට තමයි මේ interest එක ගෙවලා තියෙන්නේ. We have to consider the loan amounts that we considered this interest. So the total loan amount means 51. Then we have to calculate the allowable amounts. Here this is the formula, D90 divided by D92. So D90 6.7 million divided by 51. That means මෙච්චරක interest එකක් ගෙවන්න උනේ මෙච්චරක loan එකකට. ඒක තමයි මේ සූත්‍රය. So interest divided by the loan amount multiplied by this share capital plus reserves multiply 4 amount. Then you have the allowed amount as a deduction. So you have to consider the allowable amount and the interest amount already incurred. So what is the amount? That is already incurred amount means 6.7 million, but allowable amount is 4.2 million. Then the balance is not allowed as a deduction, so we have to add it back. Yes, Nali. Yes. 4 is the formula. 4 is given in the formula. That means 4 times. We consider share capital plus reserves 4 times for the restriction. So that is why we multiplied it by 4. That is for the formula. On Megant with Rakneve. In the formula you have given. I think you can. I have already shared that document in the specific deduction rule document. If you are not familiar with, or if you have not referred, after this calculation I will share it. I will show it with you again. මට පොඩි වෙලාවක් දෙන්න මේකින් එක්සිට් උනාට පස්සේ මේ share මේ document එකෙන් මම පොඩ්ඩක් මතක් කරගෙන යන්නම් ඒ ටික ගත්ත විදිය. So interest divided by loan amount multiplied by the share capital plus reserves multiplied by 4 amount. එතකොට මෙතන items තුනයි තියෙන්නේ. මෙන්න මේකෙන් වැඩි කරාට පස්සේ the amount is the allowable amount if we have incurred more than that. So 4.2 million is the allowable amount, but we incurred 6.7. The difference between these two is the not allowable amount. So that not allowable amount will be added back, and we can carry forward this amount to the subsequent periods to be deducted. ඒක මතක ඇති මං හිතන්නේ කලින් කතා කරපු මහත්තයා මේ ගැන කියනකොට හිටියේ නැද්ද දන්නේ නැහැ. 4න් වැඩි කරන්න කියන එක සූත්‍රයේම කොටසක්. Okay, so this is the assessable income from business. Now we have calculated assessable income from business. Then we have to move to the investment source. So in the investment source you have given interest 8.8. We have to deduct AIT, then dividend, that is exempt or final withholding payment. It is a dividend is a final withholding payment, so we should not consider it for the under assessable income. Only interest part should be considered. Then we can move to the tax computation sheet. Assessable income from business is here. Then assessable income from investment is from the next table. Then you have total assessable income. You have total assessable income. From this total assessable income, you can deduct qualifying payments only. We have to check whether that is a qualifying payment or not. Since this donation is made to Apeksha Hospital, that is a government donation to government. Therefore, we can allow total amount as a deduction, but we have to consider the amount of the assessable income. මං කිව්වා assessable income එක ඉක්මවා qualifying payment අඩු කරන්න බෑ. මොකද taxable income එක කොයි වෙලේවත් minus වෙන්න බෑ. එහෙම වුණොත් මේ ගානට limit වෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් 1/3 of the taxable income 500,000 or the amount donated, whichever the lower amount can be allowed as a deduction. That is if that donation is to the approved charity. But since this donation is to the government, without any restriction we can deduct. Only thing we have to consider is the amount of the assessable income. හරි. දැන් මෙතන කවුරුත් මගෙන් ඇහුවේ නැහැ කොහොමද taxable income එකෙන් ගන්නේ 1/3 1/5 කියලා. ඇයි? Because we are going to deduct it from the assessable income, no? How do we get it? මෙතන ලක්ෂ 8යි නිසා පුළුවන්. හැබැයි අපි බලන්න ඕනේ assessable tax, because we have to consider from the 1/5 of the taxable income, not the assessable income, to compare. Here it is, since it is 800,000, we can deduct it, but to consider whether it is assessable income from 1/5 of the assessable income or 1/5 of the taxable income. In the provision in the 5th schedule, it says 1/5 of the taxable income. 1/5 of the taxable income equals 1/6 of the assessable income. ඒක හරිද? හදලා බලන්න. අපිට ඒ ගණන් දෙකම සමාන වෙනවද කියලා. හරි. Then now we have taxable income. To that taxable income we have to apply 30%. Then we have tax payable. From that tax payable we can deduct AIT and self-assessment payments. Then you have balance tax payable. So this is the tax computation of a company. This is very similar to the tax computation of an individual. එහෙම නේද? වෙනසක් නැහැ. වෙනසක් තියෙන්නේ අවස්ථාවක දෙකක විතරයි. So this is the format. So you can ask any question if you have. දැන් මොකද අමාරුයි වගේ ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් එක්කෙනාටයි කම්පැනි එකයි අතර වෙනස මම ලියලා දෙන්න ඕනේද? මම ලියලා දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒව බලලා නැති එක තමයි ප්‍රශ්නේ. හරි. දැන් මේ ටික හරිද? මේ ටික හදාගත්තද? Shall we move to the next question? Yes, we can move to the next question. Yes. This is question number 2. Nilupul PLC is engaged in the business of trees. I think you can see Nilupul is engaging in the business of recycling and manufacturing of cardboard boxes. Following details are given. Profit before tax. Now you know what to do. Then stated capital and reserves. These details are for the restriction of the interest expenditure. Then you have given other operating income including in the accounting profit. That means it is already included in this 80,000. So first of all, what we have to do, we have to remove these things. After that, if that is allowable or should be considered, then we can add them again. Profit on sale of land, we have to consider separately, should be deducted. Then profit on disposal of lorry should be deducted. Interest on foreign currency deposit, that is investment income. Interest on treasury bills, that is also investment income. Dividend, that is also investment income. So these are relevant for the other source. The first two is part of the business income, but we have to calculate it separately. Then in calculating the accounting profit, the expenses including following have been deducted. So salaries, now you know salaries, whether salaries are allowable as a deduction or not. Then provision for gratuity, provision, in the name itself it says provision, not allowable as a deduction. Expenses on annual trip, then customer promotion expenses, it includes liquor and tobacco, then not allowed. Then depreciation, that is book depreciation, not allowed. Advertising expenses, entertainment expenses, provision for bad and doubtful debts, donation, bad debts written off, interest, here you have given interest. Value of financial instruments and interest expenditure. This is the term loan. For this loan, the company has paid 8.5 million interest. For bank OD, for 15 million bank OD paid this amount. For the lease amount, interest paid for 740 and 650. Then property, plant and equipment details are given. There are a lot of additions during the period and disposals also there. In addition to that, leased asset also there. Then the land which was acquired during the year of assessment 12-13 for the investment purpose. Now you have given a land purchased for the investment purpose, not for the business purpose. In the earlier question, we purchased it for business purpose. Now it is purchased for investment purpose. Then you have given market value as at 30th September 2017. So we have to consider it because this asset is purchased prior to that date. So we have to consider the market value because it is an investment asset. Then the security room and a small house worth of located in the new land are used by the security officers. So you have, there's a hostel has been constructed on this land. The other buildings which are used for the purpose of business have been constructed during the year of assessment. (20, 21 and 21-22 by incurring cost of 4.5 billion and 7.5 billion respectively. Then lorry was acquired on this date and it was sold. Lorry has been purchased on this day. In addition to that, bike also purchased. Then the details of office equipment which have been used for the business. Office equipment are there. Company has acquired manufacturing tools. Then advertising expenses description is here. Then lease lorry. Then the balances of provisions of gratuity account is here. Then the donation, that is for elderly home. Then the SA payment. So you have given these details. Now we can start the computation. Okay, if you have any question you can ask. ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න පුළුවන්. ප්‍රශ්න නැත්නම් ඉස්සෙල්ලා වගේම අපි ගානට යමු. Okay, this is also very similar to the previous one. You have given profit before tax, then profit on sale of land, profit on disposal of lorry, interest on foreign currency deposit, interest on treasury bills, and dividends all are removed from the profit. Then disallowed expenses, salaries, this is allowable, already deducted, no adjustment. Provision for gratuity, it is not allowable as a deduction, therefore we added back. Annual trip not allowed as a deduction. Customer promotion, in that customer promotion it says it is for liquor and tobacco, therefore not allowable. Depreciation, that is not allowable under section 16, we have to calculate it again. Then advertising, you have given note. Entertainment, this is for food and beverages, food for workers, that is allowable. Bad and outfitted provision, since it is a provision, not allowable. Donations not allowable. Bad debts written off allowable. Interest not allowable because we have to calculate the restriction. Okay, so this is the calculation of interest expenditure restriction. Share capital, you have given share capital. Revenue reserves and capital reserves, all reserves should be added back, should be aggregated, but if it includes revaluation reserve we have to remove it. Here you have not given revaluation reserve, so you have to consider the total amount of the share capital plus reserves, then it multiply by 4. මේ හතරෙන් වැඩි කරන එක හැම වෙලාවෙදිම මේක මේ amendment එක 21 ආවා 21 එන්න කලින් නම් මේක හතරෙන් එක නෙවෙයි හැමෝටම තිබුණේ අපිට වෙන් කරලා තිබුණා. දැන් ඒක හිත ඔළුව අවුල් කරගන්න අවශ්‍ය නැති නිසා අපි මේක විතරක් දැනට මතක තියාගමු. දැන් තියෙන්නේ හතරෙන් එක. ඔගොල්ලෝ ගණන් හදන කාලේ වලට හතරෙන් එක. Then the loan value, term loan amounts are given. Then OD amount is given. lease values are given, so this is the total amount. Then interest amounts are given, you have to consider it one. Then should be applied, this is the formula, share capital plus reserves multiply by 4, then multiply by interest divided by loan amount. Then this is the amount allowable. Not allowable amount should be considered, should be calculated, that should be carried forward. Not allowed amount should be carried forward to be deducted in future 6 years of period. Then the allowable amount can be allowed as a deduction. We have to add interest amount, already deducted amount we have to add. Then the allowable amount can be deducted. Here no, because all interest should be considered. All interest should be considered for this part. It is in the separate section. Only car depreciation is not allowable. Other expenses can be allowed. It is not for business purpose. No, cars are using for business purpose also. All are using for traveling purposes. Cars are using traveling purposes in the business. Directors lata yanna enne පාවිච්චි කරනවා. Only capital allowances are not allowed as a deduction. All other expenses relevant for the cars can be allowed as a deduction. car එකට ගහන petrol, car එකේ maintenance ඒව ඔක්කොම allow කරනවා. capital allowance විතරයි ඉඩ නොදෙන්නේ. car එකකට. Then allowable amount should be calculated. Then we can do the capital allowance calculation. That is land. For the land, there is a land sale. So we have to calculate the gain on the disposal of that land. Since this is an investment asset, considering the September 30th value, we have to calculate the gain. For the balance lands, that capital allowance is not allowed. Yes. What are the questions you have? You can ask. Lease total leasing value, not the payable amount, total leasing value. So since this is a finance lease, for the finance leasing amount, capital allowances can be granted. So in which part do I have that question? For the section 18 restriction, we have to consider only the interest part, not the total part. For the calculation of restricted amount, we have to consider only the interest part. Only the interest part should be considered, not the total amount. වෙන එකක් දරන් තියෙන්නේ. Yes. Total amount should be considered for the because that for that amount we are paying the interest. We are calling it amount attributable to the loan, amount attributable to the finance cost. So finance cost means the to which amount we are going to pay that interest. If it is for the total amount, then that total amount should be considered. If it is a loan, to which amount we have paid that interest, that amount should be considered. So loan interest also consider for the total loan value, total lease value. So that lease value, that total value should be considered. Finance cost attributable to financial instrument. That is the wordings in the act. So financial instrument means this is the financial instrument. අපි loan එක අපි interest එක ගෙවන්නේ මොන part එකටද ඒකයි මෙතන සලකන්නේ. නැතුව අපේ yes.
We'll assume we took a lease for 1 million rupees and by the beginning of the year we have paid 500,000. So outstanding balance is 500,000. For that we have paid 50,000 interest. So in this loan value, when we arrive at this calculation, do we need to take the full lease value of 1 million or do we have to take 500,000, which is the opening balance of the year?
So actually we do not consider opening or closing balance as a financial instrument. We have to consider only the value to which value we have made the interest amount. So because of that, it is not necessary to consider.
No, I'm not asking about this question, madam. I'm asking for a practical scenario.
Yes. So actually the figures may be different because when we are preparing a question, at that time we do not consider that exact figures. So I think that is just a figure. So only thing is for the instrument, loan instrument means the amount we consider, amount we calculated that interest. So here we consider this interest amount is we paid for this total amount, this loan value. So that is why we consider it that amount. So I think you are considering the value mentioned in the property, plant and equipment. Which value?
I'm just thinking a practical scenario how to do this.
Yes, practical.
Yes. Practically, what we can do is we can take the total installments paid to the year and deduct the interest. Then we have the capital value there. So we need to put that value here.
I'm sorry, your voice is not clear to me. So in the practical situation,
how to arrive at this capital value? That's what I'm asking. We say that you took a lease for 1 million rupees.
Yes.
And,
no. It is like this. So suppose you paid interest that 500,000 interest. Suppose we have paid 500,000 interest. So for that 500,000 interest, how did you calculate that 500,000 interest? Using which value? That value should be considered as an instrument, as a loan value. Suppose sometimes we have taken a loan for 1 million. For that 1 million, you have calculated 10% interest rate, that is 100,000. So loan interest is 100,000. For that 100,000, to calculate that 100,000, what is the value you considered? That value should be considered as a loan value. Got it? Because in the practical situation also like that. Because very beginning, when we are introducing this act also, taxpayers asked questions from us whether which value we have to consider as a loan value, opening value or a closing value. So at that time also we explained them that not the opening value or the closing value, sometimes no opening value, no closing value, but in between during that period they may have taken some loan amount and for that loan amount they may have paid some interest. So we cannot identify that loan value in the balance sheet, because in the beginning also not there, in the closing balance also not there. It is not in the closing balance, but they have paid interest. So because of that, we instructed taxpayers to consider the value they have considered to calculate that interest part. So for this also, the interest amount is, suppose interest amount is 100,000. To calculate that 100,000, what is the loan value you have considered? That amount should be mentioned as a loan value. Okay, I think you can understand. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නේ ආවා ඒ කාලෙදී. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ පනත ආපු කාලෙදී හැම දිනම අහන්න ගත්ත loan instrument එක කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? Financial instrument එක කියන්නේ opening එකද closing එකද කියලා. හැබැයි opening නුත් නැති closing නුත් නැති වෙලාවක interest එකක් ගෙවලා තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. Why? Sometimes it is for a day loan. Sometimes it is for a 1 or 3 months loan. But they have made that payment. So because of that, we have to consider the loan value which they have considered to calculate their interest. Okay. I think you got it. Okay. Then we can move to the investment income. I think that is very good question. Then තව ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද කාට හරි? ඒ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න. හරි. Then yes, then we can move to the okay, then we can move to the capital allowances for land. Then we have, you know how to calculate the gain. Since this is an investment asset, you know that value should be considered as at 30th September 2017. Then for the balance lands, no depreciation. Then for the building there is a security room and hostel, assumed it is used during the period. Then 1920 building, 2021 building, capital allowances can be granted. Then for the machinery that is purchased prior to this date, prior to April 1st 2018. So because of that, capital allowances already granted. For the machinery purchased during the period, that can be granted. Then the motor vehicle. Motor vehicle, in this question, you, I think, try to calculate the gain. Try to calculate the gain. When you are calculating the gain, you may have a question. You may have an issue, that is, the lorry which was acquired on 14th May 2020 has been sold on September. So purchased value is given. Here purchased value is given, but the sale proceed is not given in this question. Under note number 10, you have given a lorry details. That lorry is sold during this period. So you know the cost of the lorry, but for the calculation of gain, what are the important components? What are the important components to the calculation of a gain? First one is sale proceed. Definitely you should know what is the sale proceed, at what value they have sold their vehicle. Then the cost. If you have the sales proceed and the cost, then you can calculate the gain or a loss. Here you have given only the cost. You have not given the sale proceed. Then how do you know how do you calculate the sale proceed? So to calculate this sale proceed, you can do it like this. This is accounting. According to the accounts, you can calculate the sale proceed. How do you do it? You have to prepare a account. In the account, in the left side, you have to mention the cost of the asset. It is the cost of the asset is what is the cost of this asset? $4,600. Cost of the asset is 4,600. Then you have given depreciation in that table. In the depreciation part, deduct given depreciation as per the account is 3.1. So then now you can calculate the cash amount, the total sales amount, because you know the profit. So you know the cost of the asset, then the profit. It is given in the question in the other operating income part. You have given the profit of the disposal of this lorry, so that is 1.5 million. So 4.6 million plus 1.5 million. From that amount, after deducting depreciated amount, that the amount is the cash amount. The balance is the cash amount you have received. So that amount is the sale proceed. From that sale proceed, you can deduct written down value. Now you know how to calculate written down value. Written down value means the value we have already given the capital allowances. That means from the purchase date to the previous year of assessment, up to previous year of assessment. Because for the selling year of assessment, we are not granting capital allowances. Up to the previous year of assessment, we can grant capital allowances. So sale proceed is there, not given. Sale proceed is not given, but using this ledger account, you have to calculate the cash received part. That is the sale proceed. Using that sale proceed, you can deduct, you can calculate the gain or a loss. So written down value can be calculated. Written down value, what is the written down value? 4.6 purchased in the year of assessment 2021, 22, 23. That means four year of assessments you have already granted capital allowances. Only one period is left, that is 920. Then after deducting that amount, gain is 2,080,000. Here I have calculated it in the sheet. Then for the new lorry purchased during the period, that is for 5 million, capital allowances can be granted. Motorbike capital allowances can be granted. එතකොට මේ sale proceed එක හොයාගන්න හැටි මං හිතන්නේ හැමෝටම තේරෙනවා ඇති. For some questions we are not giving you a sale proceed. At that time you should calculate the sale proceed. එතකොට මේ වගේ අපි දීලා නැත්නම් sale proceed එක මේ වගේ account එකක් හදලා sale proceed එක හොයාගන්න පුළුවන්. Then some balance amounts also there, because we have not given all the details of the opening balance. Therefore, if there is a balance in the opening balance and the description part, then you have to calculate the balance part. If there is a balance, we have to consider that balance part for granting capital allowances. Here under note 14 it says, if there is any balance part, we have to consider that is fully depreciated. So for that balance motor vehicles, that is fully depreciated. Then for furniture, for the furniture, capital allowances can be granted. For office equipment, capital allowances can be granted. For manufacturing tools, for the tools purchased prior to 2017, capital allowances are already granted. Therefore, we are not going to grant it now. Then for the during the year purchases, capital allowances can be granted. Then advertising expenses, gifts and hampers, that is not deductible. Sponsorships, that is not deductible. TV and radio advertisement allowed under section 15A, because it says that is TV and radio advertising, not the production of the advertisement but the advertising. Advertising, if it is an advertising without considering whether that expenditure is paid to govern local company or a foreign company, we can allow as a deduction. So that is for the it can be either to local company or foreign company, that is allowable. Then production of advertisement paid to local company, that is allowable as a deduction. But if it is production of advertisement paid to a foreign company, then it is not deductible. Then leased assets, for the leased asset, if that leasing is a finance lease and operation lease, there are two types of leases, two situations. For the finance leases, for the taxation, in the practical world, if it is a finance lease, the asset ownership of the asset will be to the purchaser after making the final payment. අපි දන්නවනේ නේද, ලීස් එකකට අපි වාහනයක් ගත්තොත් අන්තිම ලීස් ඉන්ස්ටෝල්මන්ට් එකක් ගෙවලා ඉවරනාට පස්සේ වාහනේ අපිට අයිති වෙන්නේ. But for taxation, it is different. For taxation, if it is a finance lease, at the time of entering into an agreement for a financial lease, we consider it as a purchase. So therefore, from the beginning, we will grant capital allowances. ඒක මතක තියාගන්න. ලීස් එකට ගත්තොත් මොකක් හෝ ෆයිනෑන්ස් ලීස් එකට යමක් ගත්තොත් ඕනර්ෂිප් එක අපිට ෆස්ට් ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එකට එන්ටර් වුණ දවසේ ඉඳලා තියෙනවා කියලා තමයි සලකන්නේ. Then gratuity, you have given opening balance and the closing balance and the provision. Provisions are not allowable as a deduction, so we added back it. Then we have to calculate the paid amount. So opening balance is there, closing balance is there, then the paid amount is 2.2 million. So we have to allow that amount as a deduction because provisions are not allowable. Now we have assessable income from business. Then we can move to the calculation of assessable income from investment. Interest on foreign currency deposit, that is not subject to withholding because it is exempt. If any amount is an exempt, if any amount is exempt, then it is not subject to withholding tax. Then interest on treasury bills and treasury bonds, that is also not subject to withholding tax. Therefore, total amount is receiving by the investor, but it is taxable. It is not exempt, but not subject to withholding or not subject to AIT. Then dividends, that is also not subject because it is declared from the dividend received from another company. Therefore, it is exempt. Then capital gain is liable. So capital gain, we have calculated capital gain in the previous calculation. Here this is a capital gain, so we have to consider it under investment part. Then assessable income from investment is there. Then when we are calculating the investment tax liability of this company, assessable income from business, assessable income from investment, then total assessable income, then we can deduct qualifying payments. Here donations are made to approved charity is not a qualifying donation made in goods, not in cash. So for the deduction of for the consideration of the qualifying payment, if it is to the charity, then it should be in cash. Here it is not in cash. Then you have given the taxable income, then total tax payable. Then separately we have to consider the total amount other than capital gain this amount and on capital gain this amount. Then tax credits, AIT and SA payment, then balance tax is here. Okay, we have done 2 questions. ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා නම් අහන්න. Can a leasing company claim capital allowances for the vehicles given on lease to the customer? No, for the leasing company, according to new law, it cannot be done, because after that it is considered as a sale. It is considered as a sale to the purchaser. Therefore, the purchaser can claim capital allowances, not the leasing company. Okay. I think still you have some issues with regard to the deduction rules. So that is why I took this deduction rules part 2. Please refer these slides. So these are the deduction rules. Interest expenditure under section 12. This is applicable mainly to individuals. Companies also can apply, but it is subject to restriction under section 18. Here you can see it is mentioned here. Then I have given you an example. You can refer it. Then allowance for trading stock. This is also applicable to individuals and companies, but for a business source only. Then repair and improvement. Last week one student asked about repair and improvement. I have included repair and improvement part in the question. I cannot remember in which question it is. So here you can refer it. Repair and improvement expenses, it should be a depreciable asset. Then shall be deducted irrespective of whether they are of a capital nature or not. That means under section 11 restricts capital nature expenses. That is why section 14 is applicable for the capital nature repair and improvement. So if that expenditure is for improvement, then we have to restrict it using this formula. So for the class 4 asset, that is 5%, and to all other classes, that is 20%. If there is any excess, that can be added to the depreciation basis. It is not allowable for carry forward as restricted finance cost. So this is different. This is under section 14. Please refer section 14. Section 18 mainly for the calculation of tax liability of a company.
Miss, we can't see your screen, miss.
You can't see it? I'm sorry. Mainly repair and improvement, because last week one student asked about repair and improvement expenditure. I don't know whether he is available or not, but you can refer these slides because I have given example also. So repair and improvement expenses, so this is an example that I have given. So suppose that person is in the this is applicable for a person, that means for an individual or for a company it is applicable. So we have to consider the percentage. If it is for a asset other than building, then 20% can be applied. If it is a building, 5% should be applied. So please do the homework for this repair and improvement calculation. If you have question, you can ask next week. මේක හොඳට බලාගන්න repair and improvement එක මේ ගාන example එක හැදුවාම හොඳටම තේරෙයි, මොකද මේක හැම දෙයක්ම දාලා තියෙනවා. Then research and development part, then marketing and communication expenses. Marketing and communication, this is also allowable for a deduction of capital nature expenditure. You have given what are the entitled for the market and development, because you have given a definition. Normally bad debt expense is allowable expense. Is there any legal requirement to fulfill to allow the bad debts expenses? Practical scenario based on the management approval. We are charging it to bad debt expense. Actually, anyone can deduct any expenditure as bad debt, but you have to prove that is actually a bad debt. Sometimes even without considering that is bad debt, expenditure can be included because to avoid paying taxes. So that kind of things are not allowable. So therefore, if it is a bad debt, it should be proved by the company or an individual. Yes, I will share the answer. So this is the marketing and communication expenditure. So for the deduction of marketing and communication expenditure under section 15A, that expenditure definitely should be under this category, because under section 15A, not only the recurrent expenditure but the capital nature expenditure also allowable as a deduction. මේ ස්පෙસિෆික් සෙක්ෂන් වල තියෙන විශේෂත්වය තමයි කැපිටල් නේචර් වියදම් උනත් අඩු කරන්න ඉඩ දෙන එක. එහෙම නැත්නම් ජෙනරලි දෙන්නේ කැපිටල් නේචර් අඩු කරන්න ඉඩ නොදෙන එක. එතකොට මේ තැනට යනවා නම් ඩෙෆිනිට්ලි ඇඩ්වර්ටයිසිං එක්ස්පෙන්ඩිචර් එකක් නම් මෙන්න මේ ටිකට වැටෙන්න ඕන. Market research should be carried out by the person or a local institution. Development or production of marketing, advertising and communication campaign should be carried out in Sri Lanka. Advertising on mainstream media or social media, including television, radio, print or as outdoor advertising. It is that local institution part not included here. ඔයගලන්ට පේනවා මේ මෙතන මාකට් රිසර්ච් එක කරලපු එක ලංකාවේ කම්පැනි එකක් නම් තමයි 15 ඇප්ලයි වෙන්නේ. ඩෙවලොප්මන්ට් එක ලංකාවේ කම්පැනි එකක් කරා නම් තමයි 15 ඇප්ලයි වෙන්නේ. හැබැයි ඇඩ්වර්ටයිසිං යන එක, ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට ටීවී එකේ බැලුවම ඇඩ්වර්ටයිස්මන්ට් එකක් පේනවා, රේඩියෝ එකේ පේනවා, පාර පුරා එළියට ගියොත් හෝඩින් පේනවා, හැමතැනම අවුට්ඩෝර් ඇඩ්වර්ටයිසිං තියෙනවා. අන්න ඒ දේවල් අපේ රටේ විතරක් නෙවෙයි පිට රටක කරන්න උනත් අපිට වේදමක් දරන්න උනොත් ඒක ඉඩ දෙනවා. Product launches that should be carried out by a local institution. Point of sale printing materials that should be done by the local institution. Only then it is applicable to deduct under section 15A. Otherwise it is not allowable to deduct under section 15A. Then capital allowances. මේ ටික මතකයි. Then losses on realization of business assets, you can remember. Then this is the deductible amount of financial cost under section 18. Financial cost, we are going to deduct financial cost. Financial cost attributable to financial instrument. We are going to restrict financial cost attributable to financial instrument. So this is the formula. This is prior to 2021, but after that this is the new formula applicable for your tax calculation. So A divided by B multiplied by C. A means finance cost, B means the finance cost attributable to financial instrument, C equals 4. මෙතන පේනවා ඇති මේ C කියන්නේ 4 multiplied by total of the issued share capital and reserve. So එතකොට මේ 4 කියන්නේ මේ ෆෝමියුලා එකේම පාර්ට් එකක්. මේවා අමතක නිසා මම මේ ආයි මතක් කරන්නේ. Then how to deduct financial cost? මේ calculate මේ ටික මම කරා එදා මේ ටික බලා ගන්න. I have given you an example also. Then section 19, under section 19 loss deduction of losses. අපි තව ගානක් දෙකක් හදන්න බලමු මේ losses උයි. මොකක්ද repair and improvements එක උත්සාහ කරමු තව ගානක් හදන්න. Then section 19, so interest under business source and investment source can be deducted. All other sources are applicable only for business income. Then again deductible amount of financial cost and business or losses. So these are the two sources applicable. හරි දැන් මේ මෙතන මම දැන් මේ අද මේ අපි ගණන් හදනකොට හැමදාම කවර් වෙන section ටික තමයි මම පෙන්නුවේ. In addition to that, section 10 is very important. Section 10 to section 19 should be referred. එතකොට ප්‍රශ්න මොන හරි තියෙනවා නම් ඒ ගැන අහන්න පුළුවන්. ඔයන්ට අමතක නිසා තමයි මම මතක් කරේ මේ section ටික. මේ section වලින් තමයි අපි බලන්නේ deductible ද නැද්ද, deduct කරන්නේ කොහොමද හැම දෙයක්ම. ඒතර ගානක් හදන්න ගියොත් ඔයගලන්ට දැන් තේරෙනවා ඇති මේ deduction rules කොයිතරම් දුරට වැදගත්ද කියලා. Okay, do you have questions? ප්‍රශ්න නෑ වගේද? ඔය අද ලොකු ගණන් දෙකක් හැදුවා. එහෙනම් මේ ගණන් දෙක ආයි පාරක් ප්‍රැක්ටිස් කරන්න. Today I will share you some partnership questions also. 2 partnership questions. Then next week we can do the partnership and all other important adjustments. After that we have to go to value added tax, SSCL, then income administration provisions of the income tax. So after that we can finish our course. හරි එහෙනම් ප්‍රශ්න මොකුත් නැද්ද? ප්‍රශ්න මොකුත් නැත්නම් අපි දැන්ට ක්ලාස් එක නවත්තමු. මේ ගණන් දෙක ආයි ප්‍රැක්ටිස් කරන්න. Yes, what do you mean by tomorrow? Tomorrow we have lecture in the evening. Oh, yes. My lecture? Do you mean okay, tomorrow we don't have classes. I think tomorrow you don't have classes because Miss Kalhari shared that since tomorrow is poe day, you don't have classes, I think. Yes. Okay, I will share the answers. In addition to that, partnership questions also I will share. Then we can do that calculations. After that, administration provisions. Okay. Then what else? තා මොන හරි අහන්න කරන්න තියෙනවද? එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි නවත්තමු ක්ලාස් එක. Okay, then good night.